Believe God for lots more.
Yeah.
Don't do small in God's presence. God doesn't do small. Increasing and growing your faith starts here with you increasing your capacity to believe God.
Hey everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of iDisciple. We're so glad that you've joined us today. If you're new to iDisciple, firstly, welcome. In the last 12 months, we were super encouraged to hear that another 200 plus people have come along on this discipleship journey. And so we're so glad that you're here today. iDisciple is the place for you to find content that is going to help you grow as you desire to follow Jesus and become more like him. And we don't just encourage you to do this alone, but we encourage everybody to start gathering a group of up to 6 people and do this discipleship journey alongside other like-minded individuals who also want to grow in their relationship with Jesus. The Bible teaches us that iron sharpens iron. And so when you get together with other people of faith, moving in the same direction, that is where great growth happens. So hopefully you're joining us in a group today. If you're not, I want to encourage you to start to move in that direction. Today, we are going to continue where we left off in our last episode as we talk further on the series entitled Stretch. This is a series that we did at the top of this year that Pastor Mark and Pastor Gillian preached into, encouraging us to stretch, to be enlarged. And so here on iDisciple, we, as often we do, want to dig deeper into what you heard on a Sunday and just go a little bit further. So, Pastor Mark, Dad, great to be with you again today.
Awesome, Caleb. Thank you.
Shall we get to it?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go.
The kind of subheading of today is the key to growing in great faith. That sounds like a great topic. The key to growing in great faith. And what we want you to see today is that faith is like a muscle. It's like a muscle. And 2 things to note about that. Number 1, it has to be stretched. And it also has to be placed under resistance in order to grow. Imagine that you're at the gym. You want to grow your muscle. Okay, part of that is it has to be stretched and it has to be placed under resistance in order for it to be enlarged. And so it is with our faith. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that today. So we're going to read from 2 Kings chapter 4, starting in verse 1. This is going to lay the foundation for where we're heading, and then we'll get into the conversation. So it says this: the wife of a man from the company of the prophets cried out to Elisha, "Your servant, my husband, is dead, and you know that he revered the Lord. But now his creditor is coming to take my 2 boys as his slaves." Elisha replied to her, "How can I help you? Tell me, what do you have in your house?" "Your servant has nothing there at all," she said, "except a small jar of olive oil." Elisha said, "Go round and ask all your neighbors for empty jars. Don't ask for just a few. Then go inside and shut the door behind you and your sons. Pour oil into all the jars, and as each is filled, put it to one side." She left him and shut the door behind her and her sons. They brought the jars to her, and she kept pouring. When all the jars were full, she said to her son, "Bring me another one." But he replied, "There is not a jar left." Then the oil stopped flowing. She went and told the man of God, and he said, "Go and sell the oil and pay your debts. You and your sons can live on what is left." And so I think here in this scripture we find a key.
Wow.
A secret, if you will.
Yeah.
That will determine your life and the faith within your life being unlocked and taken to a new level. So, shall we talk about it for
Let's
a
talk,
moment?
Caleb. It's awesome. Probably my favorite topic to talk about, really, because you feel something. We all should have something in our lives that we feel this is really what I feel most comfortable about talking about, and this is one of them for me.
Yeah.
And that is to help people on the journey of faith. This is really how this teaching here is so important. We talked about it in church, but we want We want to underscore it again today because everybody should be enlarging in their faith.
Yeah.
So if last year or in the last decade you were trusting God at a certain level, you shouldn't be still trusting God at that level.
Right.
You should be trusting God at this level. So we want to discover, don't we, how you enlarge your faith.
Very good.
So this is an awesome passage. It's miraculous. You can't work it out with the human mind because it's God. It's by his nature. And but this is where we start. God can only fill what you give him
To fill.
to fill. What you refuse to give God, he cannot fill. If you say, no, God, he's not going to override that. So in other words, I think what we said in church that Sunday was, if you're going to go large, you're in charge.
Yeah. Very good.
Large and in charge. In other words, God says to you,
Yeah.
what are you going to give to me? Now, listen, we've been mistaught, or maybe our mind has played tricks, or even the devil has tried to downsize us by telling us, well, all you've got to do is wait on God, which is absolutely right and correct and true. But then we kind of pass to God, what is the size of my future according to God? And God says, no, that's backwards. What are you giving me to fill? And so this beautiful passage here about this lady in need again starts with zero, starts with nothing, as we said, or a very little. And God is saying, hey, go out, find me something to fill. And so when we understand the nature of faith, and when we understand about increasing and enlarging our faith, stretching, we have to go, okay, last year I trusted God for 5 jars.
Yeah.
What about this year, trusting God for 20 jars and 50 jars?
Yes.
But what if God in your lifetime wants you to trust him for 5,000 jars? God is not providing you with the jars. You're providing God with the jars.
Brilliant.
This whole passage. And remember, one of the most important things here is that this is, the lady's story is a reality, but it's also her mentality. So you have to start with reality, but you have to ask yourself, is this my mentality?
Very good.
So everything about this lady so far is, I don't have, oh, I do have, oh, I have a little of, but it's only a very small bit. So we see here that her reality is that, but it's also her mentality. So the man of God says to her, which is God speaking to her, go and get some jars. And then he says to her, and don't just bring a few. In other words, he understood her mentality. Her mentality was, I know this lady, she is going to go out, bring me maybe another couple of jars, thinking that's what's going to be. So he's saying, now listen, I know things are zero for you or very little and you don't have anything. Get me some jars, get as many as you can.
Very good.
And increasing and growing your faith starts here with you increasing your capacity to believe God for not just a few.
Yeah.
Believe God for more. Believe God for lots more.
Yeah.
Don't do small in God's presence. God doesn't do small.
Yeah.
You know, we can often go back to the feeding of the 5,000. You think about the little boy who gave his lunch over. We've heard it so many times, we don't even think about it anymore. But the reality is the little boy handed over something. God blessed it, and look what happened that day. Think about this and increasing your faith. What have you got to bring to God? What are you trusting that God can do?
Yes.
I wonder if the little boy thought, well, you know what? If I give my lunch, maybe if God blesses it, we can feed everybody. But what if he said, giving my lunch is not going to help anybody? So he holds on to it. Increasing your faith means that you have to give God something to fill. My question would be, Caleb, what are we giving God to fill?
Brilliant. Luke chapter 6 and verse 38, here's a scripture that also speaks into this. It says, give, and it will be given to you.
Yeah.
A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you.
Yeah. Who's giving the measure?
Not God.
Not God. With the measure that you use, it will be measured to you. Now, we alluded to this when we taught this on the Sunday morning, but let's go over it again because it's so important for us to understand that you are in charge of the measure, not God. He is asking you, what measure are you? And you remember we talked about you can come to God with a thimble,
Yeah.
but don't come with a thimble and expect you're going to get a barrel load back. Now, God is gracious in that he tells us here that the principle of faith is giving in any area, giving in money, giving in time, giving in love, giving in any area of your life, giving in forgiveness means that you're going to get it back. And when it comes back, it's going to be pressed down, running over, shaken together. And so what you give God, he then multiplies. So whatever you give by faith, stretching by faith, he always returns to it back to you in abundance. So what level are you starting? For the measure you use, it will be what measured back to you.
Yeah.
And he's saying to this lady, listen, the measure that you use, it will be measured back to you. So if you bring me 1 jar, how many jars am I going to fill? 1. If you give me 5 jars, I'll fill 5. If you give me 50, I'll fill 50. We don't know how many jars there were there, but it would seem to be, reading between the lines here, Caleb, that there were lots, many, many, many jars. And the provision only stopped when the jar stopped.
Yeah.
God did not provide the jar, she did. God provided the oil for the jars. So we have to understand the nature of stretching by faith, enlarging your faith is to understand if you're going to go large, you are in charge.
Very good.
Yeah. Give God something to fill. He will fill it. If we built this auditorium to seat 300, have a guess how many people would fill it? 300.
Yeah.
If we build it for 1,000, God can fill it with 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And so that we see that.
Very
so
good.
let's ask some basic questions, shall we? Like, let me ask you the question. So let's go over this. Who provided the jars?
She did.
She provided the jars. So if we say, okay, so if we look at man and God,
Yeah.
it's the lady, but we'll talk man and God. Who provided the jars? Man provided the jars.
Yeah.
Who provided the oil?
God.
God provided the oil. So we have man providing, God providing. She sets the temperature. She sets the tempo of what's about to happen. She sets how many are going to be filled. God then is able to fill. Now, here's the big question. Who filled the jars? It's almost like a trick question.
Yeah. Both.
Absolutely right. Both filled the jars. She filled the jars by pouring the oil.
Yeah.
But God provided the oil to pour. So they both did. So the nature of growing in faith, expanding and stretching in faith is this: you understand what is my part, what is God's part.
Yeah.
And then we have to understand that when you understand your part and God's part, then he works with you.
Very good.
Not alone. He works with you. The jars were filled by her and God.
Yeah.
He provides the provision. She provides the jars.
Yeah.
Together, in unison, they provide. It's a bit like the wedding at Cana in Galilee. Who provided the wine? God did. Who provided the jars with the water? The man did.
Yeah.
But together, we do the miracle.
Yeah.
These signs will follow those that believe. The Bible says they follow those that believe. God doesn't lead the way. You lead the way. And once you lead the way, he follows.
Very good.
You bring the jars, I'll follow you. You start to pour, I'll provide.
Yeah.
You go out in front. So when we are stretching in faith, we have to remember that God is pushing us forward and saying, go. God doesn't heal the sick unless you lay hands on the sick. You have to go out, put yourself out in faith,
Yes.
and God will follow. There we go.
Very good.
One of the last questions is, which we've already talked about really, is who stopped the oil flowing?
She did.
Are you sure it wasn't God?
Yep.
It wasn't God. She stopped the oil flowing. The Bible distinctly says, and she says to her son, bring me another one. And he said, there isn't another one, Mom. Then the oil stopped. The moment you stop providing God with something to fill, he can't fill nothing.
Right.
Think about it. Naturally speaking, where's the oil going to go? It's going to be wasted. It's all going to be on the floor. And so we want to encourage everybody today, don't we, to say, hey, keep bringing God something to fill. Let him fill your heart. Let him fill your life. Go out by faith. Step out. Risk. And give God something to fill. Stop asking God, oh, God, please, please. God says, no, you please. Give me something to fill.
Yeah, it's very good. I think when we look at this story, to summarize everything that we've been saying, she did what she could do.
Yeah.
And the bit that she couldn't do, God stepped in and did.
Yeah.
But God doesn't do what you can do.
Yeah.
You have to do what you can do. God will do what you can't do.
There's a nice little phrase that comes to mind. When we do our best, God does the rest.
Yeah.
When we do our best, God will do the rest.
Very good.
So encourage everybody, stretch. By all means, pray. God, how do you want to use me today? Every time you leave the house, God, who do you want me to talk to today? Step out by faith. Give God something to fill today.
Yeah, very good. We're coming into land. The final thing that we want to talk about is how the size of your seed determines the size of your future.
Yeah.
In other words, what you decide to plant makes way for the harvest.
Yes.
What you decide to bring to the table determines what God is able to fill.
Yeah.
Something that we've said in church is that seed not only multiplies when sown, it multiplies what is sown.
What is sown?
What is sown.
Yes.
So it's not just when, it's what. Seed reproduces after its own kind.
Own kind.
I know you've talked about this. You don't sow an apple seed and get an orange tree.
Never.
That doesn't happen. So I know there's a story that you tell regarding a car. Maybe we can end with that just to give a practical analogy of, okay, when we play our part, when we give God something to fill, God always turns up and he fills it.
He not only he fills it, but yeah, you're right. Seed multiplies after its own kind. That's in the book of Genesis. Seed time and harvest will always be in existence. So if you sow lettuces, you're going to get lettuces. If you sow radishes, you get radishes. If you sow parsnips, you'll get parsnips. You will not get anything else but that. And I do believe that God also applies this rule to faith in the spirit realm as well. So, yeah, you mentioned this illustration so quickly. We'd always had rubbish cars. I was well into my 40s. I'd never had a new car. I had loads of rubbish cars. That's all we could afford. And so here we were, 40-something years of age, some years ago now, obviously. And we'd managed to scrape together enough so we could afford a loan on a nice family car. It was a VW Passat. I remember it was silvery blue, a nice creamy interior. It was probably the best car we'd ever had. I mean, it was several years old, low mileage and all of that kind of stuff. And so and I'd clean it nicely and it'd be sitting on the drive. And one day I felt the Lord say to me, sell the family car. And I thought, well, this is not going to go down too well. So I told your mom about it. And she said, you know what? I feel that's right, which was a surprise to me. So we decided, God must be in this. I don't know what he's up to, but it sounds ridiculous. So it seemed to sell the family car. Now, bearing in mind, you were at school. All of you were still at school at the time, the three of you.
Yeah.
And I was not only taking you to school, I was picking up a couple of people down the street as well, taking to school every morning. So we needed this car. And now God is saying, give me this car, sell it. Didn't particularly know why. Now, the nature of it, of faith is that God will tell you to do something. You don't need to have the explanation as to why. It would seem, excuse the pun here, but it would seem careless to be carless. It seemed careless to be carless. But anyway, we decided to put this kind of fleece out, if you like, for God. And we put it up for sale, and within a few days it went, and we went, wow, we paid off the loan, and in our hands we had £2,000. Wow, great, we got $2,000. We don't have a car, but we got $2,000. Cut the long story short, time's gone. And then I decided, well, we do need a car. You have to get to school. All of you had to get to school, etc. So I bought this little red 2-door micro 1 liter. And for about 6 months, I drove around in this. I remember you and Joshua and Esther don't drop me outside the school, because it was an embarrassment to get out this little 2-door thing. But it was really a test and a challenge to see, would we obey God?
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, he said to us, now the £2,000 that you've made, I want you now to sow that into the building program here at the church for this building here. And so we said, and I remember saying to God, so you want the car, you want the money? And I said kind of, I'm sorry to say this, I kind of went, anything else? Probably a bad attitude. Anything else you want? So then I'm driving around for 6 months. End of the story goes, in the January of the next year, 6 months later, around about that, some kind person just was moved by God, and he took me to a showroom of a high-end car dealership and said, choose a car, brand new.
Wow.
And the cost of that car was 3 times the amount of what it was. My first brand new car. And every seed multiplies after its own kind. God said, will you sow your car? And I didn't sow it to reap a car. I sowed it to be obedient.
Very good.
It's very important to know that.
Very good.
And then God said, now I'll show you what I can do. If you sow a car, you'll reap a car.
Yeah.
But he came back, pressed together, pressed down, running over. It was a wonderful season.
Very good.
And I encourage you with that.
That's so good. And to take us back to where we started that illustration, there was stretching.
There
was a bit of resistance.
Fear.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
But in all of that, the muscle of faith is growing. You're obeying, you're stepping out, and God is turning up and showing faithful.
Brilliant.
As he does every time. So we trust that's encouraged you today. It
so.
certainly encouraged me. So thank you. And thank you for joining us. We're now going to leave it to you to talk it through, pray it through, but most importantly, walk it out in your life, and let it bless you and let it produce a great harvest in your life as well. We look forward to seeing you here on the next episode of iDisciple.
Awesome.